In this episode of the Range Minded Podcast, we stop by Jesse's place, Federated Ordinance. You know Jesse. He's been on a few of the episodes before, even on the lives if you ever tune in on Instagram Live. Anywho, we visit Federated Ordinance, the U.S.'s newest ammunition manufacturer in little old Caldwell, Idaho. Hope you enjoy this episode 233 of the Range Minded Podcast. All right, welcome back to the Range Minded Podcast. This episode is really just going to be a visual-only episode. I'm sure you can just listen to the audio, but it's really going to be hard for you to see what's going on. Now, that being said, I really didn't take any camera equipment more than just my iPhone to take this tour of Federated Ordnance. Again, like if you heard of the teaser before, Federated Ordnance is the U.S.'s newest ammunition manufacturer, and they're in Idaho, and we're so happy to have them in Idaho. Right now, they're just making 9mm and 5.56, both NATO spec, which is actually kind of cool. So I hope you enjoy this episode as we walk through Federated Ordnance. Now, just be mindful, my cameraman was my wife, and so she's never really filmed stuff like this before. So you're going to see a couple times where the camera might drift off the subject here and there a little bit. Just be patient. It's my wife, and I love her, and if you talk bad about her, well, screw you, because I'm not going to tolerate it. Tough stuff. Anyway, this was a fun tour. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. There was actually a lot of stuff I had to edit out of this video because there's stuff to come, and I couldn't show you. And I can't even really talk about it more than I just did. In fact, I've probably alluded to it too much. Let's just say Federated has some cool things in the works, and hopefully when it's all said and done, I can get into a little bit more. And Joey invites us back. Nonetheless, I want to really thank Federated Ordnance, and I want to really thank Joey Harris for making this possible. He's been a good friend of mine. We've worked together for a while. He's a stud. Anyway, shall we just get to it? Are you tired of me talking about it? Okay, let's get to it. Hope you enjoy this tour of Federated Ordnance. All right, we're here with Joey, Federated Ordnance. You've seen Joey on our lives, but he was gracious enough to accommodate my wife and I, who's behind the camera, to take a tour of Federated, and we are excited to check this out.
We're going to go see an ammo factory.
Heck yeah. See where ammo's born.
There we go.
Okay.
Let's get a panoramic.
So, Joey.
This is the start of our load lines, and we've got 2 rifle lines fed off of 1 feeder, and then we've got 4 pistol lines that each have their own feeder, and then we have 2 little giants in the middle, which if you come this way, you see the 2 little guys in the middle with the yellow light on. We can do small batches with those. If we're going to do an open tip match or a defensive bullet or somebody else's bullet, we can do small batches with those and not have to, take down the whole line.
And these obviously, these machines didn't come from the States, right?
Right. These are machines from Turkey, from Ateşi, and it's a brand new factory. We just started making 9mm in September.
So they're a new company as far as reloading equipment.
I don't know the history of their company, but these are new machines to us.
Okay.
So we bought brand new equipment. We put it in a brand new factory. We started making 9 in September, and we started making 5.56 in late December, January timeframe. And awesome. All the machines that you're about to see are they're rated to run 200 rounds a minute. The little giants that we're going to use for load development, those run 100 rounds a minute for small batch stuff like 50 or 100,000 rounds.
And these machines are running constantly.
Well, they will be at some point.
Okay.
They'll be running constantly. So Friday is our light day, which is why it's quiet in here. Normally, this is a hearing protection area. But once everything is all running and we're running 6 days a week, we should be able to average somewhere between 800,000 and 900,000 rounds
a day
between the 2 calibers, adding both calibers. So yeah,
that's a lot.
So yeah, that's 80 or 90 pallets a day of material going out. No pressure on the director of sales. So i.e. the only sales guy so far. So
I'm assuming that you're not having trouble selling this stuff, though. Right?
no, we don't have any trouble selling this stuff. We've got pre-orders of people who have, hey, you're a brand new company, but I know you, so we'll trust the process. And
Awesome.
And so far, it's been the best group I've seen out of our 9. Has been 5 shots at 25 yards out of a 5-inch staccato at 1.5 inches.
Holy smokes!
Offhand. That guy, he shoots way better than I do. We are going to shoot 5.56 for accuracy really soon, like maybe even tomorrow or the next day. So the next time we talk, I'll have some accuracy results for you. But as consistent as our 5.56 is, the spec is 3250 plus or minus 50, but our average has been 3244 with a 10 foot per second deviation,
which is far less than what
that's
NATO
like
spec
that's
is.
like match ammo. Yeah, NATO spec is plus or minus 50,
and you're at 10,
and we're at 10. So
that's crazy.
So it's crazy consistent, and I can't wait to get it on paper. Like I was telling you earlier, the first 30 rounds I could get my grubby fingers on. They shot just fine out of my PWS Alpha, and the ejection pattern, it was actually hitting the same exact spot on the wall in the shoot room. I could have put a coffee cup up there and made baskets with
That's
it.
amazing.
Just there was no inconsistency to the ejection pattern at all. So we got pretty high hopes for the 5.56.
Yeah,
So,
and I can see why. That's pretty stellar.
And then everything we do is to the NATO spec, like I was saying earlier. So sealed bullets, sealed primers, crimp primer pockets. But not only is it NATO spec going out, but it's actually NATO tested coming in. So the drop testing of the primers, the submerging the rounds in like a hyperbaric chamber and pressurizing them to make sure that the sealant's coated right, the annealed rifle cases, testing all the raw material coming in to make sure it's the right hardness, thickness, grain structure, grain direction, and then the right type of copper and brass.
Interesting.
So it all comes in certified, and the camera can probably see this big giant row of pallets. That's all brass and copper getting ready to load. So
awesome.
Yeah,
that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's work our way down.
All right. So, like I said, this is the start. And so you can film this too. So this is the start of our 5.56 load line. And so we make all that in-house with our head stamp. And we'll go see how that's made.
Yeah. Good stuff. This is all, look at this, pallets and pallets of stuff.
That's all raw material that has been certified. And we should be able to load all year this year on what you see right there. All the white bags are all material that's already been either cupped or pressed into a bullet or already made into a case. And then there's big loops so that the forklifts can move them. So we'll go look at our shoot house.
Joey, this looks like a cute little portable range.
Hit those lights. So this is our shoot room, and so we can stand and shoot on the right side. On the left side, we actually have, if you come over here, we actually have a sled where we can put a test barrel in and get muzzle pressure, chamber pressure, pressure back against the primer. And then we have 2 speed traps down there that we get velocity, and it's all fed into the computer behind me. And then that's how we keep track of, we're loading it the way we're supposed to load it to the spec that we're loading. So this is a shoot room and a box.
I need one of these in my backyard.
Inside our factory. We share it with Nemo Firearms. They make a 300 Win Mag AR.
Yeah.
The Omen.
Yes, absolutely. I mess with that rifle. I love it.
They shoot that in here. So so we share it with them. We can't shoot anything. We got to stop just below 50 BMG, but the trap's rated for everything under 50 BMG. So
a little bit smaller than the ranges we're used to.
Yeah, a little bit smaller, but HEPA filter. The air blows away from you when you shoot. I learned on day one when I shot that first 30 rounds. I learned on day one you have to close this inner door because that's the soundproofing for everybody on the factory floor. So I was barely done with 30 rounds and somebody was beating on the door already. So
shut the door. Makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So this is our raw material that came in certified. We took a chip out of it so that our inspection department can check it to make sure it matches the certification. It's the right type, the right grain structure, the right grain direction. This one's just under 1,700 pounds, and we're going to go to the cupping line, and this will all get cupped out into 9mm brass, and we're going to cup out about 1,000 pounds.
I was just going to ask. Do you have an idea of how much?
The scrap is about 700 pounds, so we're going to cup out about 1,000 pounds out of this, and it'll make roughly like 900 cups. Or I'm sorry, 900,000. No, 90,000 cups.
90,000 cups.
90,000 cups. But look how thick that is. You would think that would be for
it's a good 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, how heavy is it? But I see.
Yeah.
Like you pointed out, 1,680.
And the copper's actually even heavier. The copper's closer to 2,000 pounds. But it's a tighter.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So all of this raw material is all getting ready to be made into brass. And all those white bags with the black straps, those are 9mm cups that are already made. I have 6.5 million of them already ready.
I love to see how clean this is too. I know it's a fairly new operation.
Yeah.
The building hasn't had a lot of chance to get dirty, but it is very sterile, very clean.
Yeah, it's a brand new factory, and 265,000 square feet. Half of it will be Federated Ordinance. The other half next year will be Federated Energetics, which will be our primer factory. And when that's up and running, if I can, I'll have you back and I'll give you a tour of that.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah. So we're coming up on our cupping line. You can see on the left, there's a big roll. That's where the new brass goes on, brass or copper. And then the old, we cup it, and then the scrap comes out over here to the right. And it looks like Swiss cheese, or as my boys said when they were little, mouse cheese. So this has all been cupped out, and they're just starting on a new roll. And so this roll will end up the same size as what we just saw over there flat. Only all cupped out, it'll be 1,000 pounds lighter. And then all of that is recycled back to our material suppliers at the same spot rate that we bought it for.
Then they just re-smelt it out?
Yeah. So everything's all recycled. We try to have a zero carbon footprint. So everything is used or reused, but the components themselves are all new manufacture from raw material right here. So
you're not going to like other ranges using harvest materials?
This is not any kind of remanufactured. This is all new manufactured.
Awesome.
From raw material, and there's the start of the process. So
yeah, I don't know why that is. That's just so satisfying to look at that.
Yeah, I know, right?
So as these get pressed out, obviously they're rolling down the conveyor.
These get pressed out, and you can film now. Okay. As they get cupped out on the machines behind us, they come out on these layers because they're covered in coolant, and then they dump into these conveyors. You see we did some 556 brass.
Shiny.
Yeah. And then they'll go into a wash plant, an oven, to control the temper because they case harden, or they work harden when we cup them. So then we'll wash them, we'll cook them to bring them to the right temper, and then we'll wash them again, and then we'll tumble them, and then we'll go through our computer inspection process. Yeah, you can if you want. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the dryer?
These are the ovens, yep. And so just like watching donuts at Krispy Kreme, they just come out, all those cups are on these conveyors, and they go through a series of ovens to to bring them to the right hardness before they go into the first press.
Because like you're saying, as they get punched and cupped out,
they get work hardened. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have to be softened again to be worked again.
Well, they get work hardened. So yeah, we anneal them down to the right temper. Yes. Yes. And then they go into a wash plant.
Sure.
And when they come out of the wash plant, they're not pretty anymore, but we're about to double tumble them and we'll make them pretty. So they go through a double tumbler, and then the forklifts pick those up and feed them into these hoppers to go into the case inspection. And this over here.
And every cup gets inspected?
Every cup gets inspected. This reminds me of Scrooge McDuck diving through his sea of gold.
Have you ever just wanted to swim in there?
Might as well be made of gold. Those are all going to be 5.56 cases here pretty quick.
That's amazing.
And then it's fed automatically into that. Sorry, we're jumping around on our camera girl. So it's fed up in here, and then it'll go into an automated computer checking station, optical inspection.
Is it X-ray or just
visual
the camera?
So, so they come down that line right there. They go around on this piece of glass, and they get looked at by 3 different laser eyes for size and shape. And we have this dialed in. We have a good pile, and then we have very little that ever goes to the bad pile. We have this process pretty dialed in.
Efficiency, that's good.
Yeah. And it'll look at about 3 cups a second, so way faster than a person could look.
Heck yeah. So it's not really a bottleneck.
Not really a bottleneck. And these computer optical machines, we have like 27 or 29 throughout the process. And I've been told that other factories have 1 in the middle, 1 at the end. But we have, like I said, 27 or 29 throughout the whole process. Somebody told me we have way too many of those. We should take some of those out. But we do what we do. So
it gives you the quality, right?
And so this is our lead foundry. We melt the lead from bars in the oven. They come out as these ingots, and then those ingots get turned into the rope like in front of you, and that's for 9mm.
Oh, I just assumed that it came to you in the rope form, but
no, we actually make the rope ourselves, and it's a draw process, and then they get spooled up on these spools. And then when they go through, when they get a spool, they'll come over here to the chippers and they'll chip them out into shapes. And I'm going to duck around behind you.
Yeah, so these
and
are.
So if you see these little guys, that's for 9mm, and it's got a little bit of a burr on it. And so we'll tumble these before they go into the bullet line. But we'll go see where that's done.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, look at
Watch
these.
your step in here; it's slippery.
These
So
chunks of lead are just amazing to me.
Yeah.
So that machine spits out these giant cylinders of lead.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And then all the workers in here, they all get lead tested. There's certain parts where they don't have to wear anything but iPro for PPE, but then there's certain parts where they have to wear an N95 mask, and then other parts where they have to actually wear a supplied, or I'm sorry, not a supplied air, but a canister style respirator. And then they all get tested, I think quarterly for blood levels.
Played that game before, yeah.
Yeah. So.
That's amazing. That's
all
awesome.
right.
I bet it gets hot in here.
Yeah, we keep the air moving. So these are all bags of brass getting ready to be turned into 5.56. So these are all 5.56 cups. You know, just like what we saw coming off the optical. So these all past optical. And then this is the first strike machine, which will turn them into that long cylindrical shape. and then from there they'll get bottlenecked down.
So every step, it looks like they have to be washed again because obviously there's coolant.
Well, right here, yes. So these are, those cups get turned into long cylindrical pieces of brass that will then turn into rifle cases. And then just like on the cupping press, they go through the press, a wash, a heat treat, a wash, and then the trim dies. And you can probably kill it right there and we'll pick it up. These are all just the 9mm case cups. So
Again, after optical inspection, all that stuff.
all past optical and getting ready to be made into 9mm cases.
It is so satisfying.
Yeah. So we're going to go to the bullet line first.
Okay, to the bullet line.
So we have one rifle case line, two pistol case lines, and the same thing with bullet line. We have two bullet lines, one rifle bullet line. Those pieces of lead that we just looked at, and where they have that little burr on them. So we're going to go through here. We're going to double tumble them, and they'll come out the other side all rounded. So these are all
post-tumble.
All rounded over, so that burr's gone. They're all rounded, ready to go into a piece of copper and turned into a 124 grain projectile. And then from there, they go into an optical, because we love our opticals. And then actually, before
so
we go
does
too
it
far,
check? I'm guessing it's at the lead room where the weights are guaranteed.
it checks them right here. So this is what the 5.56 looks like after it's been deburred. And then those will go through optical to be the right size and shape. And then we weigh all of our bullets to 1/100th of a grain on the way out. So we'll see that right now. So all of these bullet cups get fed into this machine with the lead that we just saw. And when they come out, they're all pushed together and under pressure turned into a full metal jacket projectile.
Complete projectile.
Yeah, and these are dirty, but they'll get another double tumble, another optical inspection, and we'll weigh each one before we're done with them. Those are all getting ready to go.
Going to one, some happy owners somewhere,
Yeah.
probably more than one.
Yeah, and then the 5.56 is over here. This is what they look like after tumble.
Shiny. Oh, they're beautiful.
So
It's like jewelry.
full metal jacket boat tail, and they're just the cutest little guys. Just the cutest little guys. So, yeah. Those things might as well be worth their weight in gold right now, too.
Yeah, they are.
So then they'll go through an optical inspection, and then they'll go into our weigh stations. And here, the bullet will actually, and you can actually see, the bullets are sitting in there tipped down, and then there's another row of bullets that are coming in right there.
A little conveyor.
Yeah. And so it'll pick up 10, and it'll drop 10 on the scale at the same time. So it's picking up 20 at a time, and it'll either set them on the scale or set them over in the good pile or the bad pile. And it weighs 10 of them about every couple seconds. And within 1/100th of a grain, like I said. Same thing with the pistol
Nines.
bullets. Yeah. So it sucks that none of the machines are running right now.
Well, in a way, it's nice too because we can hear each other.
Yeah, yeah. So with this optical, or with this cutter, so this is after the first draw of on the 9. There's a 9mm case right there.
Oh, right there on the rim.
The center is spinning, so it'll push it over, push it in. It'll cut the extractor groove, trim it to length, and drop it out the bottom. And it does about 1 every second.
So that's probably spinning at a pretty high rate of speed.
It's not actually spinning that fast. It's a pretty high rate of.
And brass is not terribly hard either.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
it's a softer material. And over here, and you can go to this side. And so these are all the 9mm cups that have been
pre-cut,
drawn to length, and then the machine we just looked at will trim the extractor groove and then trim it to length, but it's already been head stamped, primer pocket, flash hole in the first press. So from here, it's almost a loadable piece of 9mm brass.
so cool.
It goes just like the cupping line. It goes through a wash, an oven, a wash, another computer optical, and then in this press, it will take that drawn out piece of copper and it'll head stamp it. Yep, it'll head stamp it, primer pocket, flash hole, and it'll neck the other end to 22 caliber. It'll still be too long because it'll go through the trim press here in a second. So on the 9mm, we don't have any samples. So on the rifle side, it'll go through another double tumble, and then it'll come into these trimmers, which are similar to the 9mm trimmers, just longer for the longer rifle rounds, but it'll cut the extractor claw and trim it to length all in one shot. And all these 4 trimmers will feed it into one tray or one conveyor belt, and then it'll go through another optical inspection. These guys are shut down for the weekend, so that's after it came out of trim. It's been cut to length, so that's a commercially loadable piece of 5.56 brass.
Just not to NATO specs yet.
It's not the NATO spec because we haven't annealed it yet.
Okay.
So
see, I'm starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
NATO specs.
Then it'll go through another optical.
Yeah, so you're saying some of the other manufacturers only have 3 in the line, but here you got several.
And then here's where we anneal them, and they go down these little tracks, and those snow sled looking things in there are a heating element, and so we cook the neck and the shoulder, and then that anneals it so that it has that visual discoloration like a NATO round.
Does the annealing change the length at all? I guess
it doesn't change the length at all, no, but it does change the hardness of the brass.
Yeah.
So that bullet will stay more stable.
After it's crimped, it's not going to move around.
Right, because with any military load, we don't know if it's going to sit in a crate for 30 years or it's going to bounce around in the back of a truck for 5 years or whatever.
Right.
And then we're still not done with it. So then from annealing, it'll go through another human visual inspection. And when these are running, they just roll down the line and they actually turn.
So they are just looking for the shape of the annealment?
So the optical inspection only checks for shape and size. What they look for here by a person is it'll roll down the line, and as it rolls along, if there's any kind of a nick or a blemish or a scratch, it shows up like a white light in a black room, like your eye is just drawn to it because it's different from all the rest. When they're going through and there's nothing that you can find, they all look uniform. And then as soon as you see something, it's like just your eye is drawn to it. So, and I don't know how long they do this. I think they only do this in like 30 or hour-long shifts. It's pretty hard on the eyes.
Yeah, I think I could see how it could cause headaches.
But we have just as much optical human inspection stations, almost as much as what we have
mechanical.
The optical computer inspection. So So we'll jump from here. We'll go back to the load lines.
Nice.
And so don't get him on camera, but so you can just don't get him on camera, but I'll talk about the robots. So I want to block him. Yeah. So the robot that he's working on is what I want to show. Just don't show him. So the robots will stack the pallets for us. We're at the end of the load line, and we're going to go see how those are actually made. So now we can go.
Can't imagine the electrical load you guys deal with on a daily basis.
So here's almost a 9mm pallet. So this is we stack our own pallets right now.
How many boxes on a pallet?
So there's 100 cases of 1,000. So 20 boxes per case. 1,000 rounds per case. 100,000 per pallet.
So how soon can I get one delivered to my house?
If you'd have drove your pickup, we could have just forklift one into the back right now.
Problem is just paying for it.
Right?
You take a check?
From you, I would. So what we have here is these boxes will get fed into here. The 10 rounds come down, they drop into those trays, and then it'll spit out a tray, and then they can just slide it over, and we've got our boxes here with the lot numbers, and then they double check them to make sure that the UV coating or the primer sealant it reflects under UV light. So they do a quick check, and then they fill them into that, stack them 20 boxes per case, and then they go to get stacked onto the pallet.
And I can see it looks like they can still find any kind of a blemish or anything.
Right, because they're checking the sealant. If the sealant doesn't glow like under a black light.
So let's see, have I lost count? There's an optical inspection after cupping.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to count it all if it's.
Needless to say, quality control is at the highest level.
Turn that on or I'd show you, but
it's all good.
Yeah. Anyway, so this spits out 10 rounds at a time. Once the tray is full, then it goes into a box and then goes into a case. And this is the end of the load line for 9mm. And so
that's the visual inspection bank.
Actually, we should probably kill it and go to the other. Yeah. So this is our visual optical or visual by a person of the 9mm rounds just before they go to packaging. And they come down that line and they're turning. You can see all the different sides. They can see the front and the back through the mirrors. This is the final step before it goes to packaging. Like I said, we're going backwards.
Yeah.
So from there, it comes out of the computer optical before it gets to a person.
So it's going the other direction from where we're walking.
Yeah, we're walking backwards. So in here is where it gets the sealant. It seals the bullet and the primer. And then that is what the UV light will pick up at the end as a final inspection. And then it's UV cured, so it'll get a blast of UV light. It's like quick dry super glue. So, and then part of the NATO spec is a pull test. So it has to take so many pounds of pressure to pull the bullet out of the case. And so that's one of the things that we check. But once it's sealed, it actually raises the pressure and raises that amount of poundage to pull that bullet out. And so we actually have to tailor down our powder charge just a skosh to compensate for that.
Because the powder burn, because it won't.
Because now it's got more pressure because now it's glued shut.
Makes sense.
So, yeah. And then this is just a big turret press.
Pumping projectiles in.
Yeah, the brass comes in these brass tubes and then goes around, picks up bullets on the backside, and then they all get seated, crimped, and then it drops them out into line 1 or line 2. They both feed into the same thing, but if we need to separate them, we've got them separated by line 1 or line 2.
Interesting.
And then actual primed and crimped brass goes into this machine, and completed bullets, and then we put powder in on top, and then the turret press that you just saw loads all those together. There's no automatic feeders between these machines.
Interesting.
So we feed all that by hand. And then this machine behind us is where it gets crimped. And so it comes out of the primer press over here, gets crimped, and then it gets spit out into a bucket ready to go to the load line. We'll jump back to the other side. And so this is where it actually gets primed, and they're working on this machine. The primer hopper is here, the primers come down, and as that feeds around, it gets primer put into it and then goes to get crimped in the next machine.
Oh yeah, look at all these empty primer trays.
And of course, we're empty on all those hoppers.
Explosive proof cabinets, kind of a thing.
That's where our powder is stored, the internal powder. So back to where we started, we just saw how all this 556 brass was made, and so this is the start of
That's
the line.
Annealed brass.
The annealed brass to go get primed, crimped, and turned into M193 ammo. So unlike the 9mm side, this machine does everything. The primers come in on this right side, on the other side. It'll go through like 3 Crazy 8 looking things, and it comes out the other end as primed, crimped 556 brass, ready to go into the load machines. So the load machine is just like a giant turret press, just like the other side. And then it goes right into a QC optical by the computer. And we actually found that we had to switch the sealant machine and the optical machine because the optical is so sensitive. It could tell that it had sealant on the bottom of the round,
And what's
and it was sitting off by just like a half a degree. And so we flip-flopped those, and now we have like a 98% pass rate out of optical. And then we come and seal it. And then this is my my favorite machine in the whole building, and I wish it was running. Is it'll pick up 10 rounds just like on the bullet weigh station, and it'll weigh 10 rounds, and we weigh them within 1/100th of a grain. So this is our insurance policy that we can't have a round go out that's undercharged or overcharged, because the scale will pick it up.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
1/100th of a grain.
Yeah. Pretty neat, huh?
Yeah.
And I don't know what the spec is. I think it's actually a half a grain is the plus or minus,
But that's a pretty, that's a minimal measurement.
It can weigh it down to 1/100th of a grain. And then it goes to final inspection by a person. And then from there, it doesn't get touched by a human. And when this machine runs, it takes a flat box, folds the box, glues it, leaves the flap open. This little arm in here in the middle, and I'll have to send you a video of this running. The little arm will pick up 10 rounds, drop it in the box, pick up 10 more rounds, turn them, drop it in the box, and then it'll go through the machine and it'll actually close the flap and glue it shut. And then from there, the computer will stack it into a case, and then the robot arm will stack the pallet. So from the inspection, it doesn't get touched by human hands once this is all running at 200 rounds a minute.
Wow.
So pretty neat.
That's pretty amazing, really.
Yeah. And then this is the beginnings of our third pallet of 556. Ever. This is the third pallet ever. So we're 2.5 pallets into making 556 ammo. So 2.5 pallets in of plenty to go.
Yeah. Well, I see the spools of brass.
All right.
So that is quite an operation.
Yeah, that's That's
So how many square feet of manufacturing?
so 265,000 square feet in the building between Federated Ordinance and then Federated Energetics are coming primer factory.
Which we didn't really talk about.
We didn't really talk about the primer factory,
but that's super exciting.
It's coming soon, and it'll be basically 3.2 to 3.6 million primers a day.
It's crazy.
Just under $1 billion a year on a 6-day work week.
Oh.
So it'll be the largest primer factory in the U.S. for sure.
And that'll all be commercially available.
Well, all but about 10 to 18% of it will be commercially available. And I've already had guys ask me, so I'm sure you're going to get guys to ask you as well. We're going to do the gold medal match level large rifle magnum primers for all the match shooters and the PRS shooters.
So it's just going to start with.
We're going to start with small pistol, small rifle, the 5.56 small rifle, not the softer cups, but the NATO spec small pistol, small rifle.
Because it makes sense.
And then that's what Federated Ordinance is going to use, and then we'll branch into other primer sizes.
Awesome.
So we're going to do the full gamut of primers. So
that's so exciting, and I love to see that it's in Idaho. That's the best part.
Yeah, made in Idaho. Every single box is stamped "Made in Idaho" on it. And you know me and my love of 22 ammo and target velocity subsonic 22 ammo. I'd really like. Everybody keeps asking me what calibers we're going to do, but once we have the primer factory going, that primer compound is real similar to what gets spun into a rimfire case.
So, I mean, it's possible.
So it's quite possible you might see something, in the next 3 years of a subsonic.
Well, I'm sure nobody would complain.
Nobody would complain. No.
That is absolutely
because that Gemtech subsonic was super accurate, but nobody makes it anymore.
Yeah,
so,
I still have a couple boxes.
I know they are worth their weight in gold. So I saw them for sale at a place that was $24.99 for a box of 50.
Man, maybe it's almost time to break them out.
Yeah. So hang on to them.
Yeah.
So that's how ammo's made. From raw material, from the you saw the flat bar stock, how it gets cupped into a cup and then drawn into a case.
So one thing I didn't ask, and maybe you know this answer, like from cupping to loaded cartridge, like do you know the time frame?
Well, that's a little bit hard to answer because the cupping line runs 900 parts a minute. The brass line, the bullet line, and the load line all run 200 parts a minute. So the cupping line feeds the others, but the load lines are the ultimate bottleneck.
Sure.
And they do 200 rounds a minute. So
that's crazy.
So we've got 6 lines that do 200 rounds a minute. So
that adds up.
Yeah. So the cupping line, it runs the fastest, but it also feeds the other lines. So.
Well, that's amazing.
And I apologize that it's on one of our light days, so none of the machines were actually running.
We'll come back and get some
next time you're in, we'll on this side of the state, we'll get you to come through maybe we can do some video, and I'll send you a video of that packaging machine or the 5.56 where it loads them into the boxes. That's pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, dude.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks, man.
Thanks
for
coming by, and thanks for taking the time to allow us to come through,
chatting with us, and our awesome camera lady,
the best one ever,
put up with our shenanigans this whole trip. So
but she won't even turn the camera around. She will not. No, she hates pictures. So
here, but I got a camera, and we'll fix her. No. Anyway, thanks a lot. Thanks for coming in. Yeah.
As always. Love you, Joey.
And thanks to our camera lady. She's smiling.
All right, what'd you guys think? That's a cool place. Like I said in the beginning of the episode, some of the camera work isn't the best, and I apologize, but my wife did her best. She was the hottest camera woman, I guess, I could find. And you saw at the end when we visited in Joey's office, the camera kind of trailed off a little bit. I get it. Not the best video in the world, but hey, my wife, at least she tried. If you want to help support the show, There's lots of ways you can. To start with, you can just like this episode, share this episode with your homies. You can find us on all our social medias. In fact, it's probably easiest to link to our website, Range-Minded at Podcast. Yeah, Range-Minded Podcast. I'm tired. rangemindedpodcast.com, and on there you can find all of our social media links, except for the TikTok, which I just started, which is Range-Minded Podcast. Anyways, find us everywhere, share us with your friends, and I need to hear from you. Like, I really want to hear from you guys out there, and because it's important to me. I'm thinking about doing some pre-order sales on some patches and stuff. I know I've said that a million times, but that stuff is coming. I can promise you. I have it in the works, but things are the way they are sometimes. Anyway, they are coming, but I need to know if who's really interested in them. I guess. I don't know. Sounds really picky. Anyways, you can also jump on the link tree. Once you jump through the social medias, there's ways to support the show other ways as well. If that made any sense whatsoever. I alluded that I was tired. Here's the reason why. As of this upload, it is the 27th of February, which was actually the same time that I tried originally uploading the show, except for right now it is 7:55 p.m., and I was trying to do it at 0200 this morning, and it just wasn't working, and so I'm exhausted. So you're just going to have to deal with it. All day at work, I thought about getting this episode out to you, so I hope you enjoy it. I know there's a lot of other things going on in the world, but I wanted you to take a look at a tour of something that you don't always get to see. Anyways, I'm just rambling. Hope you guys really enjoyed this episode of the Range Minded Podcast. Again, I'm really grateful that you did spend your time with us. Like, share, comment, whatever. Peace out. Oh, and one more thing I forgot to say. I say it every time. Take somebody shooting. Now see ya. Bye.